What's up YouTube fragrance family, Tommy with Studio Sense here. I hope this video finds you doing awesome, having a great day, and I hope that you can take just a few minutes out of your day and kind of focus on some really cool information regarding fragrances, specifically obviously fragrances for men. Today I'm excited to talk to you about 7 different unique fragrances from the fragrance design house called Chopard, and kind of focus on a specific line of fragrances from Chopard that we'll talk about in a moment. So when we come back, we're going to be taking just a few minutes to look at, in my estimation, one of the finer niche-like qualities of design fragrances available on the market today at a very unique, very inexpensive price. So that's coming up and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back everyone. So today I'm really excited to talk to you about one of my favorite distinctive line of fragrances for men. Way back in 2012, the world-renowned watchmaker and fine jeweler Chopard decided to bring together the best of Western craftsmanship and fuse it with Eastern inspiration. And when they brought the two together, they used some of the best, noblest ingredients to create a fragrance called Malaki, which is the Arabic term for royal. Thus, they created the very first fragrance in the line in 2012, Royal Oud or Oud Malaki. So that's what we're going to talk about first. I'm going to bring them to you guys in the order in which they were released, so we'll talk about them in chronological order. Now today, when anyone talks about Chopard, what comes to mind is this bottle right here. It's a very unique, stylized bottle. The stopper is metal and machine tooled, has a nice texture about it, and it just looks really just like the fragrance itself. Very refined, very elegant, very done, not incomplete, like a lot of fragrances appear like an idea that's not been fully evolved or fully formed. Not the case with Chopard. The fragrance itself kind of mirrors that concept of the combination or fusion of Western craftsmanship and then Eastern inspiration. It opens with a burst of sunny grapefruit. You've got the cleanliness of lavender, and then comes a slight herbal bitterness of Artemisia, which contrasts with the warmth of the heart notes, that warmth of tobacco with slight nuances and overtones of leather. And in the base, we've got that oud itself, which is the agar wood, which is slightly bitter as well and piercing. And of course, rounding that off is a very classic yet still modern note of ambergris. Now, Royal Oud or Oud Malaki is an eau de parfum. It remains a timeless classic fragrance, even though it was released in 2012. So we're coming up on what, a decade of it being around. The thing that Chopard has made really hard is to compare all of these and find a favorite. So really it's just going to be personal preference, but you can't pick one from the other and say, well, they did a really great job on this one, but they fell asleep, on the job on this one. After the release of the popular Oud Malaki, Chopard waited 2 years before they released their next fragrance, but they put a lot of work into it, and that's extremely obvious when you smell it. It is Rose Malaki by Chopard. It's 2014 when this was launched. Never really been a huge fan of rose-oriented fragrances, especially if you grew up around people that wore like cheap rose-scented. The actual cool, floral, yet lightly herbal smell of rose is extremely unique, but it's been synthesized and mimicked so many times that it's rather diluted. When you actually consider the amount of rose petals that it takes to create actual cold-pressed rose oil, it's amazing, and it doesn't smell quite as like what you think. And that's what Chopard has infused into Rose Malaki. You've got a duo combination of rose and rose absolute in the heart, and then what kind of roughens that up a bit is a bit of leather in the heart as well. And I really like the leather in this. Actually, the leather that they use in all of these, specifically in Rose Malaki. Then in the base, you've got Atlas cedar, patchouli, and a vanilla combination that is supremely masculine. So this is definitely that. There are a couple of rose fragrances like Toy Boy, Carolina Herrera Signature, the CH Men line, called it, not Signature, Insignia, sorry. But one thing that runs true, like a thread that runs through a cloth, the one thing that runs through all of these, that royal, that word. So it does have a very royal or kingly, a very stately feel about it. They're serious, but they also have a side of them that says you can wear these in almost any situation. It's such a great fragrance, and it's also one of those that happens to be great to be able to layer with other fragrances. Rose Malaki. So the next year rolled in, 2015. Chopard wanted to warm it up a bit, so they released Amber Malaki, or Royal Amber. Just like the rich heritage that is infused into the gold look of the juice, The very dark, rich, liqueur-like aspect of this fragrance is also what makes it so welcoming to wear, and what makes it so head-turning to have other people smell on you. So this opens with frankincense and orange blossom. You've got amber and papyrus in the heart, and then you've got cistus and a very warm, lightly sweet bourbon vanilla in the base. It's one of the more near edible, extremely welcoming, hyper versatile amber fragrances that you'll ever find. And it's not quite the rough and ready kind of animalic amber. It's effectively polished as well as buoyed, as well as pushed to the forefront and the center by the other notes in the fragrance. It's a wonderful, wonderful blend. Again, making it nearly impossible to pick a favorite. Amber Malaki is extremely wearable, and especially with the weather that's coming up now, cooler weather is where you can utilize it most. It's a supremely wearable, pleasant, head-turning, cooler weather fragrance. Amber Malaki. 2 more years went by and Chopard decided to do something with musk. You know, musk is in almost every fragrance, but it's the focal point, and so they created Musk Malaki. Now, Musk Malaki is one of the quieter players on the field in terms of fragrant notes and projection. Chopard Musk Malaki is like the sniper of designer fragrances. It's probably a terrible analogy, but it's one of those fragrances that you don't know hit you until it hits you, and you're like, whoa. This one has some black pepper, cedar, musk, and leathery notes. There's a combination of resin and leather in the Chopard Malaki line that just sets it apart from any other. It smells so distinctively royal. That's the best way to put it. So I think that they created a progressive line of fragrances, ones that were a little bit ahead of their time, and Musk Malaki, quiet guy that it is still extremely wearable, very pleasant. One thing that you might find slightly confusing if you ever visit the Chopard website, their online presence isn't accurate when it comes to the Chopard Malaki line of fragrances. Of course, the bottles have changed. They no longer feature these kind of cylindrical 90 ml bottles. They are featuring more of a square look. I'll put a sample of a graphic sample here. They're going to more of a traditional looking bottle with 100 ml. But they also mentioned that the latest of the Malaki line has been released, and I believe it's like Amber Malaki, which isn't correct. The actual latest release in the Malaki line was launched in 2020, and that is Black Incense Malaki. This has quickly become a favorite in the community. Chopard is a fan of using really finely processed oils in their fragrances, and this is no less true with Black Incense Malaki. Spices, some oud, some leathery notes, Somalian frankincense, which is really good quality frankincense. It manages to be that dark, rich, cool that we all like, with that resinous feel running through it. Each Chopard fragrance, specifically Malaki fragrance that I would get in, would always surprise me at the refined quality of the fragrance. So supremely wearable, yet extremely niche-like in quality. One of the more successful designer lines that have been able to do that and really kind of set a precedent for future fragrances, similar to the way that Lalique's Encre Noir line of fragrances kind of set a precedent for very inexpensive yet extremely niche-like. Again, nearly impossible to pick a favorite, and I have to rate each one of these really close to a 10 out of 10 just because of how well they are done and how well they perform. Because each one of these fragrances want to make you feel like you're royalty, they are eau de parfum concentration, therefore they are a little bit heavier, sit on your skin a little bit heavier, but they perform extremely well. I would say none of them outperform the other. Some of them, because of the more fragrant notes, do last a bit longer in terms of the sillage trail or bubble. If you're looking for men's fragrance that are wholly definitive, rich, refined, distinctive, very well made, and at a modicum of cost of many other fragrances, you could do worse than Chopard Malaki line of fragrances. I will say this, none of them are not worth the price of admission. A couple of notable Chopard fragrances that are not part of the Malaki line. If you like cedar-oriented fragrances similar to Armani's Eau de Cedre, you'll really enjoy Noble Cedar. Featuring the note of asphalt and A83 ombre is 1927 vintage. Now this is the cheapest Chopard fragrance you'll ever purchase. I think I got this 90 ml bottle for less than 30 bucks, or right around 30 bucks. It smells so good though. It's such a masculine scent, following in line with any other Chopard fragrance. Really well defined blend. Well guys, that's it for my brief coverage of the Chopard Malaki or Royal line of fragrances. These are actually all blind buy worthy, but I do want to hear your thoughts on these fragrances. If you got any kind of experience with them at all, please let everyone read those in the comments below. Guys, thanks so much for stopping by and checking out this buyer's guide of Chopard's Malaki line, and as always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.